Beer cheese stuffed pretzel balls baked into a pull-apart bread made from scratch with just ChatGPT as the chef. Sounds perfect, right? Except I got the recipe wrong, and we didn't find out until we were already mid-cook. So Huang got invited to an Oktoberfest party. Everyone's bringing snacks, and since Huang and his daughter Amelie are the German family who moved to California, the expectations were high. He came to me, MasterChef GPT, and I gave him a list of options, all party-friendly, and the one that got him most excited: beer cheese pretzel pull-apart bread. But this recipe had a problem, and it was my fault. But we will get to that in just a moment. For now,
let's get it started.
We begin with the pretzel dough. In a mixing bowl, we combine flour, instant yeast, sugar and salt. Then we pour in warm beer and melted butter. The warm beer activates the yeast and adds flavor. The sugar feeds the yeast, and the butter keeps the crumbs soft after baking. We mix until the dough comes together, then knead on the counter until it is smooth and elastic. Again, we look for that gentle bounce when we press it with a finger. Once it looks right, we shape the dough into a ball and place it in a lightly oiled bowl. We cover it with a damp towel and let it rise in a warm place until it doubles in size. While the dough is rising, we make the beer cheese filling. In a pan, we add cream cheese and shredded cheeses like cheddar and Gruyere. We melt them slowly over low heat, stirring all the time. Low heat is important here. If we go too hot, the cheese can split and turn grainy. When the cheese mixture is smooth, we slowly add beer, little by little, and keep stirring. Adding it slowly helps it blend instead of separating. The beer brings in that malty, slightly bitter note that pairs with pretzel dough. Then we season with Dijon mustard, garlic powder, smoked paprika, and a pinch of cayenne. The mustard makes it taste like real pub cheese. We cook until the cheese is thick and glossy, then transfer it to a bowl to cool. We want it spreadable but not liquid, so it will stay inside the dough. Now we go back to the dough. We turn the risen dough onto the counter and gently press out some of the air. Then Huang checks the instructions I gave him. It says we should divide the dough into 19 pieces that each weigh around 2 ounces. But here is where everything went wrong.
19 pieces? 19 pieces zusammen.
The total weight does not match what 19 times 2 ounces would be.
Das sind 21, wir bräuchten 40 Ounces. Das macht irgendwie keinen Sinn, da ist ein Fehler drin. So this is a step where I realized that we can't just use plain AI. Because what happened is I had too few dough and way too much cheese. I had 1/3 of the amount of dough I needed, but I felt like I had double the cheese I really needed. So I had to pivot. I had to make smaller dough balls, which meant I couldn't create the full dish, but only 2/3 of the dish.
From here, Huang and Amelie start shaping. Each dough piece gets flattened into a small circle. We scoop a spoon of the firm beer cheese into the center, then pull the edges of the dough up and pinch them together tightly. For stuffed bread like this, the seal is everything. If we see cracks or open seams, the cheese will leak out in the oven and we will lose that molten center. We place each sealed ball seam side down into a greased baking dish so they sit close together like a cluster of rolls. Next, we prepare the soda bath. On the stove, we bring a pot of water to a boil and stir in baking soda. This alkaline bath is what gives pretzels their classic flavor and color. It changes the surface of the dough, so it browns faster and deeper in the oven. We drop the balls into the simmering water a few at a time, let them sit for a short moment, then lift them out and back into the pan. You will see them puff slightly from the heat. Once all the balls are back in the baking dish, we brush the tops with melted butter or an egg wash and sprinkle coarse salt on top. The salt on the outside is key because the dough itself is not extremely salty. Then the whole tray goes into a hot oven for 22 to 25 minutes until deep golden brown and internal temperature reaches 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Because our dough balls are a bit smaller and the filling ratio is higher than planned, the bread ends up on the richer, denser side. Still, visually, this is exactly what we wanted, a pull-apart crown of pretzel balls filled with beer cheese.
Nicht gestimmt, das sieht eigentlich geil aus.
Now for the best part.
You have to pull it apart. Like it's hot. Oh. Das Kruste ist sehr gut. Der Teig könnte ein bisschen fluffiger sein. Käse ein bisschen salziger, was meinst du? Aber an sich schon sehr geil. In the end, the pull-apart pretzel bread was really, really good. Actually, I would say it was a success. Although having to change and having to talk to the AI and having to pivot and only having 2/3 instead of the full dish. But the kids loved it. The guests loved it. So we did it! And it is really, really interesting because that was when I first pivoted and created a multi-agent system. Because if you just use plain AI, what will happen is that it gets a lot of things wrong. We call it hallucinating, meaning it gets things wrong like measurements, ingredients, calculations, and so on. But the interesting thing is that with that in mind, I then recreated the whole AI system and built a whole different AI prototype around it. And I'm looking forward to sharing the app with you guys so you can try it out yourself. Stay tuned for the next video.